On 4 July 1894, Hawaii declared itself a republic after the reigning queen, Liliuokalani, had been deposed the previous year. This event in the Pacific Ocean 6,000 miles from the Chinese coast had an impact that no one could have foreseen. It helped shape China today. A 27-year-old Chinese radical, Sun Yat-sen, landed on the archipelago and stepped into a world where the word republic was on everyone's lips. The royalists were plotting to restore Liliuokalani while the Republican troops were getting ready to crush them. The atmosphere was feverish. The young man, who was hatching a plot against the monarch of his own country, lit upon the idea that China, too, could become a republic. This was a novel concept. Monarchy was the only political system the Chinese knew. At the time, the country was ruled by the Manchu dynasty. The Manchus were not indigenous Chinese, but had conquered the land in the mid-17th century. As they made up no more than 1% of the population, they were considered minority foreign rulers and were never short of opposition from native Han rebels. Sun was one of them. The rebels usually called for the restoration of the pre-Manchu Han dynasty, the Ming, 1368 to 1644. But this prospect was problematic. The Ming dynasty had become a rotten old tree that had been uprooted by a peasant uprising before the Manchus took advantage of the chaos, invaded, and finished it off altogether. People were not keen to go back to the Ming. No one had a precise plan for the future. Thanks to events in Hawaii, Sun Yat-sen conceived a clear and forward-looking vision for China, a republic. That November, in sun-soaked Honolulu, he set up a political organization called the Xingzonghui, Revive China Society. The founding meeting was held at the home of a local Chinese bank manager in a 2-story wooden house with large verandas, shaded by latticed screens and tropical bushes. Each of the more than 20 members put his left hand on the Bible in the Hawaiian style and, raising his right hand, read out the oath written by Sun. Drive out the Manchus and form a republic. The combination of the two objectives proved to be a stroke of genius. It gave republicanism popular appeal. In less than 2 decades, in 1911, the Manchu dynasty was toppled and China became a republic of which Sun became known as the father. The idea of a republic would have come to others sooner or later. Thanks to Hawaii, Sun Yat-sen latched onto it first. Sun's ambitious character and the lengths he would go to in order to achieve his goals were therefore critical in determining the course of Republican China. Sun Yat-sen, a dark-skinned, short man of well-proportioned and pleasant features, was born on China's south coast close to Hong Kong and Macau, the British and Portuguese colonies. The capital of the province was Canton, 100 kilometers to the north, and Sun was Cantonese. His native seaside village, cradled by wooded low hills, had a picturesque name, Cuiheng, Emerald Broadway. But its soil was largely sandy clay unsuited to agriculture, and life was one of abject poverty. He was born on 12 November 1866 in a mud hut some 10 meters by 4, which he shared with his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Sun Da-chung, his paternal grandmother, a 12-year-old brother, and a 3-year-old sister. When he grew and took up more sleeping space, the older children had to spend the nights with relatives. The family ate sweet potatoes and rarely touched the more desirable rice. The men seldom wore shoes. Hoping that their newborn baby would have better luck in life, Mr. and Mrs. Sun named him Di Xiang, the image of the North God, the celestial patron of the region. At the age of 4, the future iconoclast voiced his first objection to cherished traditions. His mother was in the process of binding the feet of his sister Miaoxi, then about 7. Foot binding had been practiced on Han Chinese women for a millennium. It involved breaking a baby girl's 4 smaller toes on each foot and bending them under the sole to produce a foot shaped like a lily petal. A long piece of cloth was then used to wrap the feet tightly to stop the broken bones from healing and the feet from growing. Peasant girls tended to be subjected to this torture at an older age than upper-class toddlers, whose feet were usually bound when they were 2 or 3, so the crippled feet would remain tiny. Peasant women had to work, so the girls' feet were allowed to grow into a larger size. When Sun's mother, who herself had bound feet and was still suffering from the pain, started to mutilate her daughter, Sun saw his sister tossing about desperately, grasping at something to alleviate the agony, and he pleaded with his mother to stop. Mrs. Sun wept and told him that if his sister did not have a pair of lily-like feet when she grew up, she would be treated as an outcast and not a Chinese woman, and would reproach us. Sun went on badgering his mother, and eventually she relented, only to take the girl to a specialist footbinder in the village.